Hi and welcome back to the channel. Today is about using a single microphone to get a good drum sound. Now I'm going to use a very cheap microphone, which is a kind of copy of an SM57. This is from Thomann. It's called an MB75 and you can buy these for £29, so very cheap. That's going to be the first mic that we use, and then we're going to compare that with a Rode NT2A, which I find to be a really good all-around microphone. I think they're about £300 now. It's been a while since I bought mine, but they've definitely gone up in price. But yeah, so we've got kind of a high-end mic, which is still quite affordable, and then quite a cheap mic, which is usually used as like a snare drum mic most of the time. So those are the two mics we're going to use. We're also going to experiment with having the two microphones at 3 different heights. So when you've got that kind of mono mic, that single mic position over the kit, we're going to experiment with having it sort of head height and then lower down and then higher up, more near the ceiling. And that's going to show you what kind of difference it makes to the sound and why it's important that you experiment with the positioning of your microphones, and how it can actually help you with your recordings. So we're going to move over to the kit today and try those different positions, and then we're actually going to go into the computer and I'll show you just some kind of basics of what I'm doing EQ wise, and then we'll kind of compare those two microphones at those 3 different heights, just to give you a good idea of what you can achieve with different microphones, even with very, very low budget microphones. And if you're doing any kind of a YouTube video, or if you're doing an Instagram video, that kind of thing, this is really, it's a really simple way to get a good drum sound with just one microphone. Okay, so we've got the microphones about head height for me, just sort of hovering over my knee for my bass drum foot, and that position is going to give you quite a lot of clarity for the bass drum and snare drum. Now, the height of the microphones is really going to affect how much of the rest of the kit you get in. So if you feel like your cymbals are quite bright or quite loud and you don't want so much cymbal part on your recording, then bringing in the microphone closer is going to give you more focus on the drums. So if you imagine like a sort of cone, coming out, almost like not quite a 45 degree, not 45, 90 degree angle, sort of coming out, that's kind of what it's going to pick up of the kit. So in this position, it's kind of going to be getting a lot of the toms, kick, snare, and a bit of the cymbals. If we bring those mics closer, which we'll do in a second, you're going to hear more drums and less cymbals. And if we go higher, you're going to get a lot more cymbals and generally all the kit. Now, as you go higher and you get more of the cymbals, you're also going to be sacrificing some of the lower frequencies. So the kind of bottom end is going to get lost a little bit. And as you come in closer, you're going to get more bottom end and you're going to be kind of losing more of the high frequencies. So this kind of head height sort of level is a good place to start. So I'm going to play just a small groove and we're going to hear how each of these microphones sounds. Okay, so hopefully you can hear the difference between those two mics. Obviously, the cheaper mic is going to not be quite so hi-fi in its quality, and the Rode mic, the more expensive mic, is going to have a lot more clarity to it. I'm going to bring both of the mics in closer now, so we're going to lose some of those kind of brightness of the cymbals. We're going to get more focused in on the drums. Okay, so now we have the mics lower down, and these are kind of level with my mouth really. So they've dropped probably about 30 centimeters or so, and that's going to give us less of the cymbals, and it's going to give us a lot more of the toms and the bass drum. So let's have a listen to that. Okay, so now we're going to raise the height of the microphones, and we're going to have them quite high towards the ceiling now, and you should hear quite a difference in that you're going to get a lot more kind of cymbals. The bottom end of the kick is going to be a lot less. So let's give that a try. So now the mics are way up. They're probably about 30 centimeters from my ceiling here, so they're a good 30 centimeters over my head, probably 45 actually. So we're going to get, based on that cone that I mentioned earlier, kind of coming out, we're going to be picking up a lot more of the cymbals now. So you should hear that in the run through. Let's have a listen. Okay, so 3 different heights, 3 different sounds. What I'd recommend you do, regardless of what mic you've got, experiment with the height. Okay, so kind of have it hovering over the knee and just experiment with the height of it. What you'll find, like I say, is if you're playing and it's quite cymbal heavy, then you might want to bring that microphone closer in to get a bit more of the kit. Likewise, if your kit's quite heavy but you're not getting a lot of cymbals, then you might want to go a bit higher. There is going to be a trade-off with that, and that is usually with the bottom end. So the higher you go, the less bottom end you're going to get, the less kind of definition of the kick you're going to get. But with one mic, you can still do a lot of stuff. And if you're doing, videos for Instagram and YouTube, things like that, or even if you're just kind of demoing a song for a band you're in, then one mic is fine, and it doesn't need to be a high quality mic. Like I say, this mic's like less than £30. And it does the job. Okay, let's go into the computer and let's just have a quick look at what kind of processing I would do for this kind of thing. You don't need to do a lot. We're not going to be adding huge amounts of reverb or like distortion, things like that. I mean, you can, but if you're wanting to just get a general kind of clean sound for kind of videos, that kind of thing, then you don't need to do very much. Let's take a look at what we recorded there. So this is the first recording we did with the mid-height microphones. So I did do a bit of EQing there, but I'll turn that off to start with so you can hear what it sounds like. So this is the £29 microphone mid-height. This is the first recording. And EQ-wise, all I've really done is I've rolled a bit of bottom end off. There's nothing there anyway, really. A bit of high, and then I've taken out this kind of boxy, kind of a boxiness we've got here. I mean, that sounds pretty decent. And then if you do the same thing with the Rode mic, I can hear that mic just has a bit more of a kind of hi-fi quality to it. And again, EQ pretty similar. You can see we've got more bottom end here on this microphone. And then if you are doing any kind of video for YouTube or Instagram, something like that, like a drum video, you might want to add a little bit of reverb. So let's go with the cheap mic first. Maybe a bit much. That sounds pretty good. I mean, obviously you can compress it and distort it, tape emulations, that kind of thing. But if you're going for something basic, then that's absolutely fine. Likewise with the Rode mic, let's turn this one off. It's quite nice. that's just the built-in EQ, built-in reverb, this chamber reverb. I've just taken off some bottom end from the reverb itself, because you don't really want your bass drum kind of murking up that bottom end, the frequencies really. So if you can take that out of the reverb, you get much kind of nicer sound. That's just the reverb on its own. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to leave the reverb off, but let's go back to that original cheaper mic. And then this is what the lower mic sounds like. So you can hear that's just got a bit more bottom end to it. The snare drum's a lot more present. And you compare that to the cymbals in this and the hi-hat, particularly in this one. Just a bit darker. And then the hi-hat that's higher up. Sorry, not the hi-hat. The microphone that's higher up. This one's going to sound a lot thinner, less bottom end going on. So that snare drum in particular has lost a lot of kind of gush. You're getting a lot of cymbals when you're using the higher one. Let's compare that with the Rode mic. So this is the original height. Quite a nice sound. And the lower one. Again, the snare drum in particular has gotten a lot fatter. Hi-hats are a little bit darker as well. And if you compare that to the one that's higher up, you can hear a lot more presence. I mean, you can actually hear the room a little bit. Cymbals are way brighter. The snare drum's quite thin now though, compared to the original. Just a bit more body to the snare. One extra thing to add when you are recording drums is that how you play is obviously going to come across on those microphone recordings. So if you're bashing the cymbals really loud, then that microphone is going to pick up a lot of cymbals. So you might want to experiment with, not playing those cymbals quite so heavily. And if you're a beginner drummer, there's a good chance that you're probably overhitting most of the drums anyway. And when it comes to recording, you really want to just hold back on those cymbals. Unless you're in like a punk band or really kind of heavy rock band, most of the time overhitting on the cymbals isn't going to sound very good. So when I'm playing and we're kind of going through the different sounds of these microphones, I'm kind of consciously controlling my volume as I go, just to make sure that I've got a nice level between the bass drum, snare drum, hi-hat and cymbals. And that takes time to develop. Part of your practice, you might actually want to try and experiment with, can you play the bass drum heavier, or can you play the bass drum lighter whilst everything else is the same? Likewise, can you play a nice strong bass drum and snare drum pattern whilst being quite light on the cymbals? It's worth experimenting with that, because when it comes to recording, that's going to give you a much better overall sound. You can't do anything with the kind of recorded sound once it's recorded in terms of with a one mic setup I'm talking about. If you have multiple microphones, it's much easier to balance things, but there's still restrictions there. So that one microphone is picking up exactly what you perform. So as well as adjusting those heights to help control the sound, you as a player need to also consider how you're hitting those drums and cymbals, because that'll play a huge part in the overall sound. In other news, this past weekend I've had my band up here. I say my band, it's Motti Parrot. That's the band that I'm in. We've got a tour coming up in April around Scotland, and we've been rehearsing at my house this past weekend, working on the set for that tour. We're going to be touring as a 5-piece, which we haven't done before. So we've got a piano player called Sarah that's joining us. Really looking forward to that tour coming up. So please feel free to check out that as well. So you can find Motti's album on any streaming service or ideally Bandcamp. It's called The Stones Are Merely Sleeping. That came out last year. Really good experience recording that. We're recording with Paul Savage at Chem 19 in Glasgow. Some delays in releasing it for various reasons, but that came out last year, and this tour is going to be supporting that album. So that's Motti Parrott. His name is spelled M-O-T-E-H, and then Parrott is with 2 R's, 2 T's. So Motti Parrott. Yeah, check that out. Hope you like it.